we have just now seen how we create a single role in BRM. Now let us see, we'll create another single role, but this time we will create it using a business function. Okay, so again, click on create and say single role. And let's say 555. Let's again create a finance role. Okay, and because I said we are going to create using a business function. So let us see what business functions we have. So we have identified some rows for some business functions for our purposes. So let's go and pick FI04, for example. Okay, and then we can go and take AP02 and AP01 also. Or let us do AP01. Okay, because AP01 conflicts is AP02. So let's add AP01 for now. Okay, so let's take that and go back to our role creation. All right, so we are going to make it maximize this. So select SAP, landscape is R3, and the moment you do that, you use SAP, the system is prompting the format of the role name as per your role naming convention. Okay, click on business. Okay, click on business process. And this time we are creating a role with accounts payable, right? Let's go and click on accounts payable. Select your project release. Okay, let's say accounts payable. So I would say role 1, okay? We are not generating the profile. Okay, so let's save it. Oh, we didn't give the name, right? So let's go and give a name now. Say P. And again, let's say this is a master role. We'll say 000. Okay, so we are giving 4 zeros because we are assuming that our company code or the leading org unit, org level is of 4 characters. Okay, so now let's go and say accounts payable 1. Okay, role 1. Okay, if we don't give the profile name, that's fine. Click on save. See, if you're exceeding role name more than 30 characters, right? Because we said the total length of the role could be only the single role's length is to be 30 characters. So let's see what happens if you remove this. Okay, I don't know how much is this. Let's see. Okay, so we still need to remove. Let's remove this and just say accounts payable 1. So now it's saved, right? Okay. Now we go through this every attribute that we saw earlier, and we know that we are saying when you say 180 days here, you're specifying saying that this role needs to be certified after 180 days. Okay, this is the reaffirmation of role in number of days as to after 180 days, the role owners will need to decide whether this role should be uh, assigned to a particular user or not. Okay. All right. So let's go to functional area, save, and go to functional area. And this is again a finance role. So add and select. This is a finance role. So let's click on finance. Save it. company, assign the company to which this role belongs to if you have multiple companies in your organizations. Okay. So the company could be your plants also, okay, your different locations that you have, and maybe, in global implementation, you could say this role belongs to US, or this role belongs to, India, or UK, or whatever. So it could be a location also, but it has to be defined as company. Okay. Save, custom fields, role owners and approvers. Add, and we know that you can add, there has to be a primary approver, and you could also assign a alternate approver in case, when a primary owner is not available to approve the role, or if he or she does not approve the role in time, then according to your workflow definition, alternate owner will get the notification for approving the role. And you can also say what type of approver they are, right? What they can approve. So select assignment approver and role content approver. Save. Prerequisites, if there are any prerequisites for this, you can assign, and then if you want any other role to be assigned along with this role, you can map those roles here. Okay, depending on, you can map the roles from different landscapes too. Okay, meaning from BI system and HANA system and all that. And if you have those roles. All right. So save and continue. Oh, let's go back previous step, right? We didn't see additional details. Again, here in detailed description, you can say accounts payable. You can give a long description as to what is the purpose of this role, who are the type of people, who are the users who can get this role, if there are any special restrictions or criteria that should be considered while assigning this role. So you can note down the functionalities from this role, okay, what all this role will allow the users to do. Okay, so we will say accounts payable. One, okay. And provisioning, so like we saw, right, so if you want this role to be available for user provisioning, the role status has to be production. Okay, now all these are role attributes, okay, and all this is what we configured in SPRO. Okay, various roles, let's say assigned users, we don't need attachments, like I said earlier. If there is any role documentation that you think should be attached to this role, for this role, or the email approvals or test results, so whatever, you can attach it here under attachments. Okay, save it. Okay, and then here you can add, okay, you can add from here, add a file or add a link. And if the test results, any documentation, if let's say you have a SharePoint site or a Microsoft Teams, then you can provide that link here instead of attaching the document directly. Okay. Now change history will tell you how this role has been developed, or how it has been changed. Pfcg history, right now we don't have much because we haven't created this role yet. And the ticket number, whatever number you entered while before creating, when you started to create the role, that you see here. All right, now let's click on save, and right now go to role, define role, say next, and now here you can maintain the authorization data, right? So earlier in the first example, we directly maintained authorizations, and the system took us to the backend system where we went into Pfcg and then we added the transaction codes there. Now in this example, we are going to add or create this role using the business function from ARA module, right? So we identified one module, one business function called AP01, right? You find that one and then select and say continue. Okay. Say okay. All right. Now if you see here, we'll come back to this phase again. You will see all the transaction codes that were active within that business function. Okay. Which are configured. Then you will see the permissions, the authorizations we still didn't see because it's not generated yet. We'll see the org levels after we come back. Okay, so let's go back to authorization. And then, because this is coming from the BRM side, right? Let's push the authorization data to the backend system. Let's do that. And here it will again ask you to log into the backend system now. Say allow and use the password. Okay, your user ID and password. So log in because we already logged in. The session is already open. So let's go. Expand this. Okay. See the description that we gave is here. Long text that we gave. And you see the transaction codes that have come in. Okay. These are the transaction codes which are part of that business function. Now, if you don't want any of these roles or any of these functions, right, any of these transaction codes, you can go and delete them. Okay, but I'm not. So let's go and maintain the authorizations for this role. See, organization levels, and you have all these organization levels, right? So let's, because we are saying this again is a master role, let's maintain all and then save it. I'm going to maintain the authorizations. So I'm not going to generate the role now, okay? You can generate, technically you can generate the role, but we are not going to do that. We're just going to save it. All right. So it's going to prompt you, it's not generated, which is okay. Now let's go and close this session. Okay, so this role is also created now. Okay, so let's go and make a note of these roles. Okay. Okay, so we created these roles for a data. We'll see what there's a purpose for these roles. Okay, we'll see later. All right, so close this session and now go back to, now we maintained authorizations, right? Now next step is to sync with Pfcg. So let's do the synchronize Pfcg authorizations from the backend system. Now let's go to actions. So we saw this earlier. So you have these transaction codes from the backend, sorry, from the business function that we used. Now you have the authorizations because we maintain the authorizations in the backend, right? And the org level also. These are the different org levels you have: company code, purchasing groups, purchasing org. Okay. Then we click on functions. So to create this role, we use the function ID AP01. Okay, so you get these details here. Let's go to additional details. Again, you can go and modify this, for example, with the date created, who created it, what was the ticket number, what was being done with this role, all that. You can do it here. Now let's go to Pfcg change history. So let's go and check the system, and it is going to take you back to the backend system. Okay, again enter the password, your password. Let's see what happens. So it takes you to the SUI and change documents section, okay, where you can see the change history of the role. Okay, so we are not going through the whole process here, the steps here. So let's go back, and then you also have the ticket number here. All right, click on save. Let's go to maintain authorizations. And now, okay, so if you want to create to derive roles, right, then you have to click on the propagate derived roles also. All right, so let's click on save and continue. Now, we are not going to create a derived role here right now, but so we skip this phase, right? Whenever you want to skip a phase, say click on save and continue. And again, you have to, because you say analyze risk, access risks, select the rule set. In our case, it's global because we are using SAP standard delivered one. And then select what all do you want to see, the risk, what type of risks you want to analyze, right? So the action level is the transaction code level, permission is authorizations level. And in ARA, if you have maintained critical action or critical permission, so we are even including that. Now, anytime you find a risk, you can mitigate the risk here itself. But again, in ARA, this mitigation controls need to be defined. Mitigation owners and the mitigation controls have to be defined. All right, so click on foreground. Now, because we used only one business function, we don't get any risks here, okay? So click on save and continue. Okay, now next step is to generate the roles. Now I'm going to go to say next, select the system and give the password. Okay, this is your password. Click on next and it's going to, you can rerun the risk analysis if you want to, okay? Maybe because you would have mitigated the risks in the previous step earlier, and you want to ensure that there are no risks again. So these are analyze the risks again if you want to. So rerun risk analysis just in case, and then submit, right? So then it says one role generated. This role has been generated. Now you can go back to the backend system and see if this role has been generated. Okay. So authorizations is maintained, right? So the role has been generated. Okay. Now let's go back to our this one. And now close this part, the role generation phase. Now, like we know, the role creation process, to complete the role creation process, it has to be in complete status. Okay, so click on save and continue. Did we see this? Yeah, we saw this. So save and continue. And the data is saved. And then it is complete now. Okay, now you can see the details of the role here, what all you did. Okay, now so we can close this box. Let's see what happens. It is complete. Okay. All right. So we created two roles now. Now both these roles, if you see, were created without risks, right? There were no risks in the role. Now let us create a third role, which will say accounts payable role, role 2. okay? Then use, because we created the role with AP01, now let us go and create the role, add the business function, okay? AP02 to the role. Now, risks can happen if there are two conflicting transaction codes or permissions in the same role, or two roles that conflict with each other are assigned to a user. Okay, so what we are trying to do here, we are trying to simulate conflicts within the same role. Okay, so what we will do now is we'll create another role, AP02 role, with both these two functions. Okay, so we created with one with this. Now we want to create a role with risks. Okay, so let's see that. So we'll include in the third role that we are going to create now. Next, we are going to include AP01 and AP02.